Hello, yes, it is me, your, and please say it with me, favorite former U.S. men's national team player Jimmy Conrad, and I just wanted to take a moment to reflect upon the season that just finished up for Manchester City, but in particular for Pep Guardiola, because with his team's ass-kicking of Watford in the FA Cup final, I learned that Pep has won every single league and cup competition that he has ever managed in, which, in case you were unaware, has been in 3 different countries, which begs the question, does this make him the greatest manager of all time? First off, and I'd like to think that we're all in agreement here when I say that it's hard to know, because what makes a great manager? For me, it's winning, of course, because if this manager is not winning significant trophies, then we have zero evidence of their greatness, because winning trophies is verifiable proof that they're the real deal and something for us to measure them by, and of course, to compare them with the others who are achieving similar things. Which means, and just so we're clear, this isn't about the managers who are really good at keeping their teams from getting relegated, okay, Big Sam Allardyce? This is about the winners, the people who know how to get their team to cross the finish line in first. And then there's the setting of tone, or establishing the culture, or I don't know how to summarize this category with one word. So let's just say it's getting everyone on the same page and buying into the philosophy and vision of how the manager wants things to go, which is no easy feat, especially since every new season presents new challenges, so the philosophy and vision, well, they have to adapt in some ways, while still remaining true to its core principles, which again is no easy feat. And then there's influence, and I'd like to say that the best way to account for this is by how many people are trying to copy exactly what this manager is trying to do, which, let's be honest, we see managers try to do this a lot. They're always trying to steal from each other, but they never seem to be as successful as the manager that actually knows what in the hell he's doing. And then finally, and I think this one is more for me because I think it's super important, it's impact. And not on the greater good of the game or anything like that feels a bit over dramatic. It's more about the player themselves, and did they care about them not only as players but as human beings. And I'm not suggesting that managers need to be privy to every facet of their players' private lives. However, I do think they need to be aware of what's happening off the field to a certain degree, if only so they can support the player in a meaningful way if that player reaches out and needs support. And I think this loyalty in a manager is reflected on how the players speak about playing for them. So with these 4 categories in mind, and you're welcome to add some more in the comments if you think I missed something, it's time to do that compare and contrast thing, because as fans, that's what we are born to do. But just so we're crystal clear, it's gonna be Pep versus everyone else, because that's what this video is about. Is Pep the motherfucking greatest? So let's talk about winning. And the best thing that Pep has going for him in this area is now that he hauled in the domestic treble with City this season, or is it the domestic quadruple because he won the Community Shield? Do people count the Community Shield as a significant trophy? Or maybe you count it if you win it, but if you don't win it, you think that trophy's trash. Doesn't mean anything. Is that what happens? Anyway, with these 3 or 4 trophies, based on your perspective, he has now passed his biggest rival, Jose Mourinho, in total trophies won, which has to be a pretty good feeling, since I get the sense that Pep thinks that dude is a bastard. However, Pep's total haul of trophies is still way behind the man at the top, Sir Alex Ferguson, 21 trophies behind him to be exact, since Sir Alex won a total of 48 trophies during his time with Aberdeen and Manchester United. Which sounds like an insurmountable number to overcome until you realize that Sir Alex managed until he was 70 years old and Pep is only 48. So if Pep keeps up his current pace and continues to manage until that age, I think it's safe to say that he will surpass Sir Alex's total. Which means if you're someone who only thinks that winning trophies matters, then you should probably start preparing yourself now for Pep to be considered your managerial GOAT in the future, because that's where it looks like things are heading. However, until then, Sir Alex is the man in the winning department. So let's move on to the setting of tone, establishing culture, whatever I said before, because I think Pep has done an excellent job wherever he goes of putting his stamp on things. But every manager we could compare him with, like Sir Alex, Arrigo Sacchi, Jock Stein, Amir Hitzfeld, Mourinho, Walter Smith, Trapattoni, Ancelotti, Johan Cruyff, Bill Shankly, well, they're all excellent at doing the same exact thing, which is what I'm describing, which is why they're also part of this conversation, because they built something that makes everyone involved feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves, from the players to the front office people to the backroom staff to the field crew to the supporters, everyone, which is the underlying essence of a great manager. So in many ways, I feel like this is a draw between all of the competitors, though I will say Mourinho has lost a little bit of his magic over the last 5 or 6 years, but you can't deny his ability to win trophies. Plus, we could argue Mourinho winning the Champions League with Porto back in 2004 has to be one of his greatest achievements, because I just don't see that happening now. And there's just way too much money being spent on players. Which actually, as a contrast, since Porto's budget was quite minimal back then, it reminds me of something that needs to be brought up as it pertains to Pep. The elephant in the room, as it were, and hopefully there's an elephant going across your screen, and that is the massive amount of money that Pep has been able to spend on players during his managerial career. Now, he deserves credit for how he spent the money, of course, and how he's molded all these players that he bought into a well-oiled machine that wins trophy after trophy after trophy. But I do find it interesting that in his first season at City, when he didn't get the players that he probably wanted, he didn't win any silverware in a season for the first time in his managerial career. I mean, you think the true GOAT would have won at least one, especially with the talent on his squad, even if those players at his disposal didn't play his style to his liking. Also, another thing of note, he still hasn't won a Champions League trophy without Leo Messi, and I think people are gonna withhold any shouts of him being the GOAT until he can prove otherwise. Anyway, getting back on track, let's talk influence, and for me, the winner in this category has to be Rinus Michels, the Dutchman who 100% revolutionized the game back in the 1960s by defining what total football should look like, which Johan Cruyff then took and perhaps perfected as a player and then as a manager, and which Pep continues to use today, which proves just how truly powerful Michel's influence was then and continues to be now. Because it helped establish an identity of two clubs that you have definitely heard of, Ajax, who have looked tremendous this season, and Barcelona, who continue to be one of the best clubs in the world, and one country, the Netherlands, who sure, maybe they haven't won as many international tournaments as they should have, but the sheer amount of players that they have produced for such a small country is nothing short of phenomenal, and it all leads back to Rinus Michels. However, in fairness to Pep and any other manager in today's game, I'd like to think that these current managers are smart enough to have come up with something similar if they had lived back then, but obviously they didn't. So it's only natural for them to learn from the past and try to make it better or more their own, as it were. But Michel's had it all figured out, right? That's been proven, and it just couldn't be better than what it was, and that's what makes him a genius. Also, how do you compare one manager from this era with another one who did the job and did the job well 50 years ago? I'm not sure that you can, which begs another question. Which era was the hardest to win trophies? But I don't want to answer that now because that's a whole other video, and we need to finish our last category, impact, which means this is where I send it over to the players, especially someone as well respected as Vincent Kompany, who just announced that he was leaving Manchester City to join Anderlecht as a player manager, which sounds pretty awesome. I should probably do that with the Glens. At the still relatively young age, especially for a center back, 33. And he said this: Man City play the football that I want to play. It is the football I want to teach and to see played. Okay, now I'm not sure a compliment can be paid any higher to Pep, but then Dani Alves, one of the winningest players in the history of the sport, well, he said this a while back. If Pep told me to throw myself off the second tier of the Camp Nou, I think there must be something good down there. And that is a complete buy-in by the players. And again, super high praise to what Pep has done to their mentality and about what is possible. However, after I sifted through countless interviews with players that played for all of these top managers, they all pretty much say the same thing about each person, like, I learned so much, or I owe them everything, or I'm a better player for having played under them, etc. But they all have a few detractors too, and I'm specifically looking at you, Samuel Eto'o and Zlatan, neither of whom care all that much for Pep. But it's clear that all of these managers had incredible impacts on the vast majority of their players. But who stands out as the best? Now, I'm not sure we can say Pep yet, but he's definitely working his way towards that title. However, there is a small part of me that would love to see him take over a smaller club with a limited budget and see how well he can do, because that's a version of Pep that we haven't seen yet. And if he can do that, or if he can help a national team win their first ever World Cup or something, then I think once everything is said and done, he would easily confirm his status as the greatest of all time. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Please share them with me down below, hit like and subscribe, and be on the lookout for my reactions to my other league previews, and of course some career mode, hashtag Inyo in, hashtag Inyo forever, and then if you're feeling up for it, drop me a follow on Twitch because we're having a ton of fun over there. Okay, I'm done talking. Later.